Hi everyone, Zachary Louie here from Wuji Xuan Life Wellness and Toronto Qigong. Today's topic is yoga versus Qigong. What are the differences? What are the commonalities? Well, as big as this topic is from both ends, I'm going to say we're going to cover the general principles first. Then we're going to get into more specifics. So, let's start off with yoga. Yoga comes from India, and with that is definitely influence from Indian philosophy and culture. What is the nutshell approach to that? Well, in Hindu and Vedic philosophy, it views the world where you are learning to transcend this life into a better life, to be one with Brahma or the universe. And from there, you will learn certain lessons through your karma that's been stored from astrology, uh, your DNA, your society, all these different things. Yoga kicks into this perspective when it says, well, we're going to give you a way to transcend all this in a super fast way. Yoga is a very general term. It means to be yoked or have a yoke on you, which is in practice, how do you take off the yoke and how do you become free? Ultimately, it wants you to be free with these practices. Yoga isn't just the physical postures. There are many different types of yoga. There is mantra yoga. There is scriptural yoga. There is the physical yoga. There's many different types of yogas and many different type of combinations. So with that, that is Vedic, Hindu philosophy, and yoga in a nutshell. And keep a note on that because this is important later on when we start doing comparisons. Next, let's go into Qigong. Where does Qigong come from? Well, if you did any research or you're watching this video, you probably have an interest in Qigong and generally would know it's from China. And with that, Qigong focuses on many different things, as yoga focuses on many different things. But with Qigong particularly, it's about how do you build up the energy, how do you store the energy, and how do you be in harmony with the universe in many different ways. We can take different philosophical slices on this. Taoism aims to be in harmony with nature and the world to achieve some sort of immortality. It could be physical, could be emotional, could be spiritual. There is Confucian views on it where it's about how to be in harmony with society and your family. And then there is Buddhist views on it, which is how do you take right now and view you not having impasse to any enlightenment. Remember, Buddhism came from India initially, and Buddhism, in many ways, was the heretic child of Hinduism, or at least the child that was a little bit rebellious. So it tried to work on a philosophical principle antithesis to everything that Hindu and Vedic culture preceded it previously. So with that, that is more on the Qigong side of things and its influences. Now, let's break down to the nitty-gritty of things. The fun stuff of actually the comparison between yoga and Qigong. Society. Not the first thing you were thinking about, but it does actually influence the philosophy here. So having that background that we talked about in yoga, it's more along the lines of, well, I understand that we are trying to transcend and get into a better life or become one with Brahma. And there is this reincarnation cycle happening consistently in Indian culture and philosophy. So how does that reflect in society? Well, reflected in the context of, well, you're stuck in a caste, you're born in a caste, and you're staying in a certain way for that caste. There is no upgrades. If we had to put this in a video game context, there is no mobility. There is no growth. You were born into something, you're going to stay into something. And this particular view on life and the way people interact with life does show through Indian practices and yogic practices here. In yoga, the whole point was to transcend this. Now, what would the goals be? Well, it'd be to, one, you either become one with Brahma, the universe, or transcend into nirvana if we're taking a Buddhist context on this. And from there, it would go into, if it's not that, and say, you just don't have the karma for that particularly in this moment or in this lifetime. Well, at least you've put some work into it so you can upgrade it in the next life. And you'll be in a better position to continue your practices till you reach that final goal of becoming one with Brahma or the universe, being one with everything, and having no separation of self. Because that is ultimately where Hinduism and Vedic traditions go into. Next, we go into the Qigong view of society, or Chinese culture's view of society. It's very different. It's all about mobility. Social classes get to move. You put as much effort as you put in, and you get the rewards. If you put in X amount of time, you're going to get X amount of results. So you can come from a peasant background, and you could be working for the emperor if you worked hard enough. And with that, if it's not the emperor, you can definitely work anywhere in between there. It just depends on the type of effort you put in. Because in Chinese culture, you did have that social mobility, and nothing really was restricting you. The main thing that was focused on was how do you harmonize and how do you work with all these different individuals, because you're not going to treat the emperor the same way you're going to treat your brother or your boss, and you're not going to treat your friends the same way. This social mobility works on a different question now, and we see that influence in Qigong too. So let's break the energetics down now. I know this video's getting a little bit long. So breaking down the energetics on that, in Indian culture, primarily, at least one of the primary ways would be through working through the chakra system. And when you work through the chakra system, you are bringing up the root energies all the way up to the crown, and you essentially are trying to shoot that energy through or burn the energy through any impurities you have, so you can actually be one with Brahma. Now, I know there are other type of yogic practices that go opposite ways, as you can go crown down to the root, or root and crown meeting at the heart chakra, things like this. I'm just speaking generalities at this point from a philosophical standard. So when you're doing this, it's more on this upward mobility, generally speaking, though I know there are practices that just would throw it sideways, where you would actually do more of a balancing or harmonization side of things. In Qigong, it's not about moving the energy upward and trying to transcend and be one with the universe or anything like that, because it's all about this present moment. It's about how do you milk it for the best life right now, because that's all you have essentially. And then if there is an afterlife, the Chinese had different philosophies with that, depending how specific you want to go with it. I mean, Buddhism has a different way of looking at things, Taoism has a different way of looking at things, Confucianism has a different way of looking at things, and there's so many different slices that can be viewed. So from a real tactile perspective, when we view Qigong, it's about how do you get the best right now? How do you get more vitality? How do you get more focus? How do you get more energy? All these types of questions become bigger in the Qigong context, because once you have enough energy, your social interactions are going to be better. Your family's going to be better. And from that, that is a translation into spiritual practices, because now there is no separation essentially between the two. If you have more energy, you can definitely do more spiritual things. You can do more reading of the scriptures, you can have more mantra work, you could do more Qigong or inner alchemy work later on in the advanced stages. You do a bunch of different things, but it starts at that pyramid side of we need to get your foundations solid in the practical world right now. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to do hours of yoga or hours of spiritual practices. So a spiritual practice from the Chinese standard would be how to milk and harmonize everything with the environment, because there is no separation between you and the environment in a Chinese context. This is actually very similar to Indian context also, where there is no separation. It's all representations of yourself. So don't take it that from a Hindu or yogic perspective that they don't focus on the monetary world standard. They do when you actually look at the tradition. However, in terms of its actual philosophical leanings, there is a little bit of difference there. So when we work in a Qigong standard, it's all about how do you harmonize this yin and yang balance within yourself and yin and yang balance with the environment. Everything's always changing, everything's always relative. Not so much in a way that it would make you delusional or confused, but it's just you need to be able to switch out things very quickly in Qigong. I would make the analogy that yoga is like fire. It keeps burning, it goes upward. Qigong is like water, it flows everywhere. So the approaches on them, there is no better or worse. And really, yoga is an excellent system unto itself, with Hinduism and Vedic traditions backing it up philosophically. And same thing with Qigong, with the Taoist, Confucian, and Buddhist side of things. So really, it depends on the individual on what they're pursuing with that. Both branches or both umbrellas offer lots of different ways to work on things. So with that, if you're interested in more information, go to Toronto Qigong or go to Wuji Xuan Life Wellness. And until I see you in the next video, take it easy.